there's a document called Modules in Development. And this is what I'm trying to fill out, because the 4 high school team leaders are using this format. They're, you know, like, we're each trying to fill out this document for our teams, and then we'll look at it together, the 4 of us, and see, you know, if there are gaps we need to fill, or how much overlap. Some people have asked about overlap. So it gives us a way to look across all of the projects. So as I'm meeting with the teams, I just want to make sure that you're aware of this, and that it's a living document. I want to make sure that I have the correct information. It looks to me from the notes in your folders that I've seen so far that you may be working on revising that compelling question or unpacking it so it becomes a couple of questions for module development. So we just want to make sure that I stay up to date on that. And a lot of the other stuff is coming. So that's one thing I want you to know. That's what I'm working on, but I want you to be double checking me to make sure I'm accurate. The other thing that I want you to be aware of is that in your team folder, in team 3, now I can't find my way back to it. I put a document that is intended to provide me with a way to give you feedback along the way, or it's also a place where you can ask questions. So there's a couple of different names for it. I think it's popularly known as a single point rubric. For me, it's a feedback form. It's a way of not, because rubric intends, I think, score, or is often associated with score. But for me, it's really a way of giving feedback. So if you can look at that for a moment, I'll just tell you what's in there.
Is it module development?
Yes. Yep. That's it. Should say Team 3, Module 1, evidence of required and desired elements. So that's what I'm looking at. So what you see down the middle is a description of the element, the required or desired element, in a very basic form. And then on the left-hand column is where I can give you feedback if I feel like, well, it's not quite there, it's missing this thing, you know, this is what it needs to really have that presence. It's in that box, I could maybe give you even some resources, suggestions, you know, places to go. Or if it's not yet, I mean, you can put questions in there. If you're just not sure what exactly it is that you need to be putting in, you can drop that in there. Or over on the right-hand side, evidence and module, this is where, you know, we can document, yes, this is good, this is what we see, this is how we move on to the next thing, the next part. So that's all that is. It's a way to make sure that I'm looking for the same things across all the teams, and I'm giving feedback in a uniform manner. I see you're all reading, so I'm just giving you that time to to do the reading. But so I would see one of these for each module, right? As a module comes to play, we'll get this, and it'll help us track what's going on or what we may need. So another thing I'd like to look at. Sure, go right ahead.
I only watched about half of the video from the last meeting that we had, so this may have been answered at that meeting, but I may not be aware. Is there, as far as the modules are concerned and the specific modules that each team is creating, will there be some sort of universal platform from which these modules will be generated?
Yes, so that's what's in development right now. There's a company called Redfin, and Redfin is they're out of Portland actually, and they're creating the platform that we'll use to launch this whole project. And our vision is that it lives and expands, and we keep adding to it. So we're looking at just the first wave. Thank you, Elsa, for like getting rid of it. So it's looking at launching in September, but that's just version 1. I think there'll be lots more to come as we figure out what works and doesn't work. So last Friday, I had 5 members from across, my 4 teams attend a meeting with Redfin, and they began experiencing that platform. And that's part of what was shared in Wednesday's meeting, is how that platform looks. And so it would have a series of tabs so that as you build your module, things will slide into certain places, or you have options for how you want to navigate it through. So I think there'll be a lot more information to come about that, because it's in development right now. And even last Friday, the teachers who were on that call were making suggestions, making requests, and Redfin is trying very hard to do that design on the fly.
Okay, thank you.
So is it kind of going to look like a website where there's different tabs that students would click to access different content? Is that the kind of idea of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They called it frames. They've got the frames, and all that means is I think they have a vision for how each page of this platform looks. The frames are the different pieces that will go into that. And so that's part of why we had to rebrand, that we were using a name that was being used by another organization launching something very different, but with a very similar name. So now our Moose, main online opportunity for sustained education. That makes it seem more unique. Okay. So I'm looking at your Team 3 folder, and I see that you did get the consent form copy. That's in there. That's very helpful. The other thing that I'm looking for, so some other teams have come up with some frames for how they're doing their planning, and I wonder if it might help you to look at some of those other frames, because I feel like you have the potential for different module development. Like you've got the potential here to kind of unpack this and follow some strands. If you keep it as big as it is, it's one huge module, and I kind of like to avoid that, right? Break those out. So tell me a little bit, just looking at your notes, where are you heading? What are you thinking about this question that you're unpacking?
Well, I think that we were really trying to focus in on agriculture from our last meeting, that we wanted to connect this idea of community to something related to agriculture, but it was sort of spreading out from there. And I was hoping in this meeting to just get some clarity on exactly where I don't necessarily know exactly where we're going, and I'd love to hear from other people, so that I feel like I'm not doing anything right now and I want to do something because it's a really exciting topic. I just don't know what to do, and I don't know where to go, and I don't feel like we've made like a definitive, this is where we're going.
So could I make one observation just about a single word in your question that could change things? I am looking across the whole K-12. Now we've got that one big guiding question, which means there's going to be a lot of similarities in the questions that move through K-12. I wonder, based on where you'd like to go and taking some of that, coming at this from a more agricultural perspective, which makes a lot of sense, especially for the state of Maine. I wonder if you change the word communities to systems. How can people learn to adapt thinking and improve systems? That you really open up the possibilities here. Because you know, down below, you've used the word systems a couple of times, food systems, economic systems. And I think systems are much bigger than communities. And that's one of the things that I see looking K-12. I think we want to be developmentally appropriate. And I think at the high school level, we can move beyond sort of a simple community thinking and move into systems theory. And certainly with systems theory, you bring in a lot of the science. We can really tie in. I think mathematics has room when you start talking about systems theory. And it makes it bigger than communities. Then you can develop something that looks specifically at, say, agriculture and economic systems, you know, certainly agriculture and food systems.
And what I like about that, though, we could kind of each do our own piece of a system. And I don't know, I guess that's where I'm at too. I need to know what piece I'm working on. I have great contacts in the agricultural community. I can work on videos. I can do all sorts of really neat things. I just don't know how we're splitting and how that all works, what people's individual pieces are to start working on.
Marcia, my understanding is, because I asked the same question, I asked, should I be working on modules already? Should I be doing my work already of my content? What am I supposed to be doing? Because I thought I wasn't clear about what were we doing. And the answer was, right now we are just trying to get resources. So my understanding, and Morgan, please correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is right now we are gathering all the resources and maybe gathering all the skills that everyone has, that everyone, every single one of us has. That way we can offer them, you know, to the table, and then all together at some point, maybe, I don't know, next week or later in July, then we're gonna start building with that. But right now I think is getting to know us, you know, getting to know ourselves and where we can contribute to this work.
Right, right. I think that may be part of why you're feeling a little bit stuck. It seems to me one of the first things that you have to do is really figure out what are the projects you want students to do. So I've seen that you'd like to support a community garden. I think that would be addressing one system. Since we're talking about backward planning, we really do need to focus on what exactly are the projects that that will help us do that backward planning. So in group one, if you look at group one's folder, they have an overview document that they put together that has all of the elements. And I think that could really help you as a visioning tool to kind of see how you'd want to go, because what they envisioned was 4 different modules that gets them to, you know, as they unpack that same question. So I think that, so what I like is, I shouldn't say like, that's a value judgment that I don't mean to make. So what I see, if you changed, if you changed your overall question, your team question, to how can people learn to adapt thinking and improve communities, and then you take it down to looking at what systems of interdependence exist within communities. Okay, now you get your community piece. I'm going to suggest those first 4 bullets that you have: food systems, health and wellness systems, educational systems, economic systems. Those can give you 4 modules. Those will provide you 4 modules that all link back to that bigger question of that interdependence across the systems. And I think that the other 2 bullets that you have about natural environment and the cultural fabric, those are part of the other 4 systems, that those become a part of that. That you can tie all of those in, because this is intended to be about blended modules. So, you know, it's not like we would have a science module and a social studies module and a you know, a language module, right? These are about tying those together. So what Claudia was describing about knowing your strengths, but also knowing, really identifying the learning that you want students to do. If you start with the projects, what do you want students to do as they learn about food systems? What do you want students to do as a culminating project as they learn about health and wellness systems? And certainly, you know, food is tied into that. You know, the economics of food systems and in agriculture, I think that every modern era adolescent dystopian series has to do with not being able to get enough food for everybody, right? So it's just, it's that underlying principle for a lot of literature that interests kids. So there's ways to tie these ideas together. And what I'm saying is, if you can zero in on the projects that you want students to do to demonstrate the learning, be clear about what learning has to take place in order to get to that culminating project, then we can align the standards from different content areas without specifically zeroing in and saying, here's the math lesson, here's the Spanish lesson, you know, here's the social studies lesson, because I think they're tied together. Does that make sense? Okay, if you can look for a minute at Team 1, and I'm going to admit, I have been in there messing around with their document. So it says layout Team 1 modules. Okay, can you find the one that says layout Team 1 modules? Okay, this time I say what I like. What I like about it is it helps me see what I gotta see. Period. It just
folder should be under media resources or module 1.
Well, if you keep scrolling down in Team 1, you should be able to find a document that begins with the word layout.
Oh, I found it. Sorry.
Yep.
Found it.
So what they did is, you know, this is a pretty simple approach. They created a template and they put in some of those essential elements, like the things that I'm trying to include to give you feedback. And so they've got a big question. What does it mean to understand, belong to, and contribute to a community? And so you see how they unpacked it with 4 compelling questions. So then what I did, and this is why what's in red is what I've inserted since I met with them yesterday. So what I did was, they were not envisioning the culminating project. They were getting stuck because they had a ton of ideas about what they wanted to do, but they weren't coming to that culminating project. So I moved the culminating project up to the top and suggested, like, here are some culminating projects. Now we unpack it from there. That's what project-based learning helps you do. You really think about, because what I see, my vision, coming back to Andrew's first question, what I see, what I imagine in this platform is that students will go and they'll look for topics. They'll be able to search by projects. They'll be able to search by major projects. That's what's going to get them in to open it up. It's not going to be Math Standard 4 and History Standard 3. That's not what they're going to be searching for. They're going to be looking for these culminating projects. I'm really interested in creating a community garden. I'm going to go look in there. So I think that these culminating projects are a driving energy for how we want to think about it. So then you see how they laid it out. And I like that they also were clear about the factual knowledge, the procedural knowledge, and the conceptual knowledge, because that's important to make sure we have all of those levels. We want to make sure that we're not getting stuck in factual or procedural, and we want to make sure that we're not focusing so exclusively on conceptual knowledge that we don't know how to get into it. We don't know how to bring students in. So I think they've done a nice job. And you'll see where they've listed standards as content areas, but not specific standards yet. Okay, Claudia.
I just have a question. We are focusing on agriculture, as Marcia said, but we have several bullets that we haven't really, we talked about, but we haven't really done much work with them. So should we be looking at all those bullets and go from there, or should we just focus on agriculture? Because we haven't talked, we talked, but we haven't done work with education. There was education in there. There was like 3 more or 4 more that we haven't really focused on. We talked about it the first meeting, but we haven't really done any work with that or look for resources. So are we supposed to be looking at those as well?
I think that as you zero in, and at this point, you really should be zeroing in on the modules that you're building, those project outcomes. It's up to your team to decide. You know, it's still pretty wide open, so you can decide how much you want to do, how far you want to go. I'm just suggesting from observation of the notes you have so far, the systems may be that unifying theme, and agricultural systems may be one of the systems, or agricultural systems may be a part of all the other systems that you're looking at.
Okay.
That's something your team needs to figure out. I could see it working very well both ways.
Maybe through next meeting in March, we can talk about that and really focus on what we should focus on. You know, like that way we can start working and start having work done. You know, that way we're not kind of around circles, because then we're wasting time that we don't have. And then, you know, August is gonna come and then I don't want us to be like, oh, we're running out of time. And so.
Yeah, you guys have some great ideas, and oh my gosh, you have enough here to sustain you could build a whole year's worth. And if you decide to stay on this project and keep going, you've already got ideas to keep you going. Now it's time to pull back and say, what can I do to get started?
So I had an idea, because I'm a fiber arts teacher. And so like we were talking about backwards design and creating a project, like I was sort of thinking, what could kids do at home with materials that they have? And fiber arts lends themselves to actually creating something at home using things that you already have. Would that be an example of a module to look at fiber systems with the end project in mind, that students are creating their own weaving or creating their own handmade good? Would that be an example of something that could be worked on?
It could certainly be worked on. The question is, how do you tie in other content areas? Because the rule for the project is that each module has to address at least 2 content areas and not like this, but like this. So speaking of fiber arts, you want them knit together, right? You want those different content areas. So as long as you can do that, then that's fine.
Okay, perfect.
Morgan, I have a question about the Team One example that you shared with us. Is that a template that you envision all teams using moving forward? Like, should we file? I mean, I like how it is laid out, and I would happily file and make a copy and start one for Team Three to, you know, generate conversation at our next meeting.
So I've been working at a pretty high level, getting people, first of all, getting people in and settled in their groups and all that. So it's just been in the last 48 hours, actually, that I've been having these small group meetings. And it was only yesterday that Team One showed me that template. So this is all new thinking. I really like it. I'm not going to require every team to do it. If you all are interested, then I'll turn that into a template that I'll park in the resources folder, and then you can take it and go. But I really like it so much that I think when we get to 2.0, which will start in September, apparently, I may start my teams with this template and say, here's how you do your planning. You know, these are all the elements. So, so I guess my answer is yes and no. I like it. I would love to. I'm not, at this point, I'm not going to force it on anybody.
Okay.
Would you like me to turn it into a template?
I would. I'm interested to hear what Claudia and Marcia have to say.
I think it will help me, Morgan, because it will help me like see it by sections and by what exactly I need to accomplish. Because if I see it like all that is great, but it will help me being more organized with where I'm going or where the team is going as far as work.
So
What are your thoughts?
yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that as soon as we're done with this meeting. And so I'll put it in the resources folder, and I will leave it as 4 modules, but that is not intended to imply that you have to make 4 modules. You can change that as much as you want. Okay, so how do you feel about moving forward? Are you feeling confident you can keep going?
I am. I think that because we already have those like 4 bullet points underneath the question that I think can be, you know, using this new template, I think we can fan things out and figure out where we're going as far as looking at the what is it, considering the end products and also considering you know, what's factual, procedural, and conceptual knowledge we will have. I mean, my idea, at least, and again, you know, happy to hear what other team members say, but like the next time we meet, I would love for us to, you know, just come up with goals of like, by the end of this meeting, within an hour, can we come up with like what the product will be for this module, and what the factual, conceptual, and procedural knowledge would be. I mean, at least that at a bare minimum, and maybe even be able to determine like who among the team members will be targeting those particular tasks or options.
Right. So
I don't know what other people think.
Everybody doesn't have to be a part of every single module. It's great if you can figure out how to bring your content area in, but you don't have to. You know, 2 or 3 content areas that meets this requirement. This is an innovative project, and this is the first round. So if that can help you, you know, just narrow the work a little bit and keep it going, then take that route. You can shoot me an email or a text message. I think you all have my phone number anytime, and I can zoom in to see if I can help if you get stuck. I don't want you languishing somewhere feeling frustrated, you know, if you're working on it.
Thank you, Morgan. I appreciate your, your being available to us, because sometimes we get stuck, and by the time we hear an answer, 2 days, 3 days went by, and time is limited right now. We have to have this work done by September. And, by you being available in case we have any questions or anything that comes up, then I really appreciate your help, with this. That way we don't get stuck.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, my goal is to try to give you same day responses. And whether it's my thinking to help you get through that or me connecting you to someone, that's important too. We can bring in someone we need to. So, yep, all of my vacation plans for this whole year have been undone. So here I am. I'm just reach out and I'll just constantly monitor.
Cool.
So I think, oh, go ahead, Marcia.
Oh, no, good, go ahead.
I think Doug sent out a doodle poll to us and I think it was to determine like availability moving into next week. I hadn't looked at it yet, but I'm thinking maybe if we figure out a time after the holiday, maybe toward the end of next week, a week from today, to just sit down and meet and kind of have this discussion, hopefully with all members in attendance, to have this discussion about what the final product will look like, and then moving backwards to the levels of knowledge, and then maybe being able to, sort of farm out tasks to various group members.
I'm going to suggest you try to meet twice next week, once earlier in the week. If you can meet together before our Wednesday meeting,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can bring some questions you may need to the bigger Wednesday meeting. And
Okay.
then another meeting after that so that you can process some things there as well. Just to kind of keep it on track moving forward.
Yes, I was going to suggest to meet before our Wednesday meeting. I don't know how available you are, Drew and Marcia. I can work, mornings is best for me. But if the only day that I cannot meet is Thursdays at 6, because I have a commitment that I have to attend on that day. But if that is the time that works, for the majority of the team, then I just watch the video and give you some sort of feedback or something afterwards. But whatever works for you too,
I'd say get on that doodle poll. Doodle polls are great because they let you see right off the bat,
Right.
really what everybody's got. Yeah.
I think I answered to that. Don't remember. I've been filling out the consent. I remember that the document, no, how you call it? Document, or how you call that?
DocuSign. That's, yeah. Oh my gosh. That's part of what I'm supposed to do on Wednesday is check in and make sure that you're all getting those documents signed, because I'll tell you, getting paid for anything from the state means jumping through a lot of hoops. So let's get that done sooner rather than later. Yeah.
What time and day works for you guys?
Well, for me, I have 3 kids, and so usually evenings work better simply because there's another parent home. But as long as I can duck out and attend whatever crisis is happening.
You are.
Yeah. But other than that, that's why I always say evenings, because it's easier, but I can do other times.
And most times the day work fine for me.
Okay. We can do Tuesday afternoon, evening, if that works. Tuesday, would Tuesday be a good day?
It's fine.
Will that be a good day for you, Drew?
I'm going to check right now.
Okay. Oh, I should do the same. um,
Tuesday is not good for me. I'm sorry.
no, okay.
And Monday is wide open for me. I don't know how people have for what people have for Monday, but
Monday, I just have a football meeting. If you guys want to go ahead and meet, I just touch base with you. I will be okay. I just have to go to this football meeting for my son and sign all the papers, and you know how it goes if you have kids involved in sports.
well, what time will that be?
The meeting is at 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering because I think for our whole group to get together, finding availabilities, it's always going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, hold on, my toddler.
But I do want to say, Marcia, I don't have toddlers or younger kids anymore. You know, I have only one left, one kid at home only, and he's a teenager. That's my one. So I want to accommodate to you because others are more challenging, although sometimes they can be the same. But
No, I have a 2-year-old, I have a 7-year-old, and a 10-year-old.
yeah, you see, I'm not there anymore. I already went through that, and the only one that I have left is 17. So I want to accommodate. I think toddlers and younger kids, I mean, they need more supervision than teenagers. Drew, I don't know about you. You know, what is your?
Oh, I have 2 teenagers at home, so I think like most of the time I can just escape down here to the basement or go outside, and they don't even know if I'm around. So.
If we want to. All right, so I'll tell you what, if you don't have any specific questions for me, I'm going to go work on this template and get that. You know, I've made a copy and parked it in the resources folder. So I'm gonna make it a real template and take out all this stuff and have that ready right off the bat. Do you need anything else from me? Awesome. Well, thank you for inviting me, and look for this, I'm going to guess, in the next 10 or 15 minutes.
Thanks, Morgan.
Thank
Have
you.
a great weekend.
You too.
You too. Happy 4th.
Thanks. Take care.
So I think at this point, I can probably set up a meeting for Monday at 6, and then just record it. And again, I think when I'll send out an email as well, just saying like what our to-do list would be for that meeting, what we would hope to get accomplished. Or maybe I'll just add it to the document that you created, Claudia. And that way people can just look at it and say, add to it or edit it or modify it as they see necessary.
And then, Drew, will you be recording the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. That way I can go back after my meeting over there. I can come back home and watch it, and see if I have any questions or so I feel that I'm all caught up.
Right.
Okay. Yes,
So
that will be. I can do that, absolutely. Yeah. So that's great.
My question, because when she was talking about the end products for different, I don't know if it's the same module or different modules that we'd be creating under that question. But I'm wondering if people have things that they're really interested in investigating for a final project. Like, for example, I was really interested in fiber systems in the state of Maine. Like, that would directly relate to my class. And I know that I could pull a whole bunch of history and a whole bunch of stuff in there. I'm wondering if I use that template to start laying something out that I may be interested in exploring. Like, I want to be a team player, so I'm not trying to like go rogue here, but I kind of like the idea of just starting something, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely something I could use for my own courses anyway. But do you think that coming to the meeting with an idea of what you might envision for an end project or a direction that you want to, that group members may want to take some, because I think that all of us working on a community garden, that would get pretty, I mean, that's a topic, but it's not something that would be huge. I don't know.
Something that will, or something that will be huge. What did you say?
No, I just, if the end product is a community, I don't know, maybe I'm not making sense and I probably am not. I'm wondering if it's a lot of people to be working on something like a community garden, because it's,
Right. The way I saw it was that because we were going to have the new template, that the whatever we had for those products was going to fan out into like those 4 different systems that we talked about, and then we may have multiple different end products that would be multidisciplinary in their approach, and we would have, you know, various team members working toward them, and it wouldn't necessarily be the community garden anymore. That's kind of what I saw happening.
gotcha.
I don't have, at this point, big ideas as far as projects. I liked the community garden, the community, you know, agriculture garden. But if I want to apply that to my school, for example, if I think more local to my school, I don't know how that will work. And I've been very honest. You know, I love that idea. I don't know how that will work because I don't teach that. So I feel that I am removed from that in a bit. I teach it, I talk about it. You know, I talked about products in Spanish-speaking countries. I talk about agriculture in Spanish-speaking countries, but I am not really into that 100%. So I feel that I am a little removed from that as far as me trying to implement the garden in my school. However, can I do it? Maybe I can. You know, I can talk about that idea to my principal and try to put it together. But but I don't know how that will work. I guess it's what I'm.
Well, and my concern too, if we're looking at these to be available at the start of the school year, usually community garden stuff would happen in the spring anyway. It wouldn't be happening in the fall. So I mean, all of this learning would be tabled until a springtime thing, because that's when that stuff would all be started.
When I was in Lewiston, when I was teaching in Lewiston, there was one physical education teacher that did that. And my daughter was attending Lewiston at the time. And she did that. And I don't know how successful it was. I didn't hear much about it after my daughter graduated. I didn't hear. I don't know if she continued with that or because there was some kind of you know, like some days she will do it physical education and another day she will do gardening. And they had tomato plants, they had garlic, they had all that. And then at the end of the school year, all the kids will take their plants with them. I don't know how successful it was. I mean, I can reach out to her and see, you know, what her, you know, see if she was successful, if, you know, and every community is different. Every little community, every little district around the state is different. Something that, you know, some idea or some, any kind of implementation or of something it might be, bless you, it might be different. The success of it might be different depending on the needs, the specific needs of every district. So I don't know. I know my daughter liked it. She enjoyed it. But I don't know what happened after that. I don't know. And I don't know if the teacher felt that it was something. I like the idea because, again, I truly support teaching and, you know, kids learning where food comes from and how hard people work for us to eat an apple. So,
Well, I'm wondering, playing off that idea, like, I'm wondering if it would make more sense that instead of really focusing on this idea of the end project as a community garden, is that if a farm to table activity would be more appropriate, where kids were almost mapping out where their groceries came from and understanding how things grow and where things come from different parts of the world. Because I think that it might make a little bit more sense, because it's,
you're right,
community gardens are wonderful.
it will be more practical, you know, because that will give them a better idea and it's easier for us to do rather than organize a whole garden, to me. I don't know, Drew. what
Yeah,
do you-
that makes sense to me. Particularly, I know we want to have components of the modules where they are not necessarily doing things online. But I don't know, you know, the whole thing around creating things with fibers, that sounds great because it would not be online. And certainly the garden piece wouldn't be online, but the garden piece would be cumbersome given the sort of the, you know, the boundaries that have been established by the fact that we are in, you know, we're sheltering in place and we don't know where we'll be come September. And the whole idea around this is to, you know, have students be able to learn independently through these modules without necessarily having to go anywhere.
Well, and I can see each person being able to take their own piece of it. If you're talking about where do our agricultural products come from, you know, we could all sort of pick a region or pick a product or pick something that could show kids where it's coming from and tie in different parts. Like, you know how you were saying about fibers, that's kind of my area, but like I could talk about where are our clothes made, where are our fibers from, what does that system look like? Somebody else could look at what is, you know, our imported foods, where do some of our imported foods come from and some of the issues surrounding some of those, or things that are made in Maine, where do they come from, how are they grown? All of that stuff has so many different aspects and subjects that can be pulled into it. And I think it might meet our specialties a little bit better, especially if each of us could take our own piece of it and own it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it has to be something practical, not too complicated, but at the same time useful, and at the same time something that kids can learn from. That's what I think.
Mhm. I don't know. Did you have any thoughts about that, Andrew? Did you like kind of going to that almost where your products come from idea versus a garden?
No, I like that idea because since we last met, where I was heading was around the history of agriculture in Maine and the history of, you know, the farm to table phenomenon that has occurred in the past 10 to 15 years. So I found a lot of sources, as Claudia was saying, like, are we in the phase now, or thought we were in the phase where we were just retrieving sources at this point. I had found quite a few sources with that information. So, you know, being a history teacher, I wanted to have some sort of history component that I would spin into this. I certainly think the idea around, you know, maybe talking about certain products that Maine was once famous for, but no longer famous for. And then talking about, you know, products that are now or have continued to be identified as specific Maine products.
What are the products that Maine is not famous for anymore?
I would say probably, well, it's not, well, that wasn't agriculture. I was thinking like lumber at one time, but that was just, you know, wasn't something that was grown specifically. What's that?
The masts of ships. That was so cool in Maine's
Yeah.
history.
Yeah. But unlike, you
But
know,
that's-
it wasn't an agricultural product. It was just something that was naturally harvested from the environment.
But imagine if that was a module of like, where did it come from?
Right.
You know, like that could be, it could be bigger than just agriculture. It could just be like, where do these, that's kind of exciting. I mean, if she's talking about things that kids could research.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much that you can tie into where did it come from?
Yes, absolutely. I don't know if you saw the link that I posted about Mano and Mano, a program in Machias that is a program for immigrants, and it helps especially people from Spanish countries. And they they do a lot of things, but they focus on agriculture. And I just thought it would be really cool, you know, if my students can learn about that and see how they benefit, how those families benefit from this program. And I just thought, I mean, people go to the Caribbean, to the Dominican to build houses, you know, for other families. These products from this, you know, Mano and Mano program stay in Maine. It's in Maine for Maine families. So I just thought it was really cool too.
Yeah, we can hear.
No sound, Drew. Did you hear him, Marcia?
No.
Okay, so it's not us. F5. Push F5. Well, maybe yours is different. There you go. I heard something, Drew.
Hello?
Yep, you're good.
I don't know what happened. I didn't push anything.
All right. Were you saying something?
If I was, I lost it. Sorry.
That's okay.
What I will say is we've gone an hour now, and I don't know whether, you know, people want to keep talking beyond that. I know that I'd have to go to a power source to continue recording at this point in time, or whether we should just leave it as we will add things to the document that Claudia created. I could certainly start taking Morgan's template and at least beginning something and sharing it with everybody so that they can add to it as far as brainstorming final products. And I can schedule a meeting for Monday at 6, and hopefully our other 2 team members can make it.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you, Drew, for taking care of the recording and all the housekeeping stuff. Thank you.
Oh, no
Yes,
problem.
thank you.
All right. Well, then I'll see you Wednesday, because on Monday I have to go to this meeting. Now it's a special meeting because, of course, of the corona.
Yeah.
They're asking, I don't know how it's gonna be, but they're asking us to park on one side and get the forms here and then take them there. And so it's all this organized system, you know, just to let us know how things are gonna be for this football season. It's gonna be interesting. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, and see you Wednesday. And just if you could please keep me posted by doing what you do, you know, just keep logging in and doing that. That way I can go back and read it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a great holiday, guys.
You too. Enjoy your day.
Bye.
Bye.